Good evening. I'm Matt Volz, and welcome to Sports Hour on WNYF. I'm joined by Jack Hoadley to start off tonight's show to talk about Major League Baseball. I'm not dressed for baseball, but you are. Your New York Yankees right now in Cleveland taking on the Guardians. I understand you were at the game yesterday, too.
Yeah, it was a great experience. We went with the Sport Management Club here at Fredonia, so a little plug there. It was a fun game to go to, even though the Yankees didn't win, but got to watch a couple home runs from Jazz Chisholm, Jason Dominguez, and Jose Ramirez, even though I didn't like it, hit a 3-run shot that kind of opened the floodgates for the Guardians. But it was certainly a fun experience, and yeah, it would definitely go again. So
yeah, that's one of my favorite things about baseball. It is so different between being at the ballpark to watch a game versus watching on TV. I'm a fan of a very out-of-town team, as you can probably tell by my laptop. I'm a St. Louis Cardinals fan. There aren't too many others like me around here. It's very different watching the game at home versus being there. I was fortunate enough to go out to St. Louis a few summers ago. I've gone a couple of times to see the Cardinals live in action. Unfortunately, the first time I saw them was in 2019 against the Houston Astros, so that series didn't go so well for us. But I saw them play the Kansas City Royals a few years ago, and that one went a little bit better. But it's definitely very different being at the ballpark for sure.
I absolutely agree. I think that like baseball as a sport to watch live is like either one or two. I mean, for me personally, I love football, so that's always going to be my one, whether you're at home or it's live. But I do think that baseball is like the second best live sport to watch. It's always fun to go see like any team play, really. It doesn't even have to be your team, and I definitely agree with you on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So this year, again, very early in the season so far, as a lot of teams are only roughly 20 or so games into the year. We talk about some of the teams that we expected to be near the top of the standings, and there's some near the bottom. So who are a few that you wanted to highlight?
I mean, we said it, I believe it's either 2 or 3 weeks ago now on the show, but the Detroit Tigers have continued their good start, and we're talking about the Guardians. They're rivaling them for their division right now, obviously extremely early, but you like to see that. I think that the Tigers are a team that should keep active closer to the deadline to maybe make a move that could get them to that ALCS World Series range. I don't think it's crazy to say that about Detroit, because they're doing this well right now, and Riley Green, I think you would say consensus best hitter, isn't even playing up to his potential right now. So I definitely think the Tigers are a team to watch. The AL East is and always will be a bloodbath, but I think that one of the surprisingly disappointing teams so far has been the Orioles. I believe it was Sunday. They lost 24-2 to the Cincinnati Reds. A couple guys on the Reds, I think it was like their 8th and 9th hitter, had 6 hits in that game. So big shout out to the Reds, but the Orioles have been kind of disappointing so far. And then you have the Blue Jays and the Red Sox, who are always going to be competitive as long as they have Vlad Guerrero and the insane farm system that the Red Sox have. So yeah, the Yankees definitely got some competition to make it back to that World Series. But then you have teams like the Mets, who are just cruising right now. They won 5-2 yesterday, I believe, against their division rival Phillies. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how it comes together, as obviously it's not even May yet, so we can't look too far into it. But going to be a good year, and there's a lot of good teams.
Yeah, the Mets certainly had a great weekend. I don't really want to talk about that because they swept my St. Louis Cardinals in a 4-game series. The team, speaking of the Cardinals, the team that they're playing against tonight, the Atlanta Braves, have been shockingly disappointing so far this year. They came into the year, I mean, the Mets and the Phillies, everybody knew, were going to be really tough. But seeing the Braves where they're at, the Braves are 9-13 overall on the season, and they've won 6 of their last 10 games. They had an awful start. It was really surprising to see the Braves have as terrible of a start as they did. They're coming into play tonight in last place in the National League East, and one of the worst teams in the National League. Of course, I'm not one to talk too much. My Cardinals are 9-14, but nobody really expected the Cardinals to do much this year, probably least of all me. So to see the Braves that low in the standings has definitely been really surprising. You already mentioned the Orioles. The Orioles, I'll be fully honest, were my pick to win the World Series this year. That was my World Series pick, was Orioles-Phillies.
That's rough.
And I had Baltimore winning it. I decided to go crazy. I didn't want to get boring with another Yankees-Dodgers World Series. I wanted to have some fun.
Boring?
Yes, I wanted to have some fun. Pick some teams that are never there. The Orioles were terrible for years. Nobody, outside of New York and L.A., there are 28 baseball fan bases who do not want to see a Yankees-Dodgers World Series rematch, or the Red Sox, or teams like that in the World Series.
Well, I can agree with that. I do not want
Yeah.
to see the Red Sox
Well,
in the World
I can
Series.
agree with that too.
But I don't know. I think that a team that not a lot of people are talking about, despite their really incredible start, is the Padres. Like, they are a team that are kind of like the Orioles and the Yankees and even the Mets in a case where it's like their pitching staff might be something that you could worry about, but it's actually been dominant to start. The Orioles haven't had that luck, but I don't know. Like, I think that they've been a really good team so far, and they certainly have the offensive firepower to make up for a rotation that might not be as strong. So, yeah, I think the Padres are a team that you should look at to definitely rival the Dodgers. I didn't really make a World Series prediction going into the year, but if I had to, based off of like the first 25 games or so, I'll be crazy too. I'll go Tigers-Padres. That would be
All
a
right.
series. That would be a sick series.
That would be fun.
Like, I don't know. I'm a big Detroit fan. I really want to see
Yeah.
them go far if the Yankees can't make it out of the AL. So
Last year on my radio show, I made a crazy prediction going into the playoffs last year. I had a Phillies versus Tigers Worlds. I know I don't care for the Phillies. I just think that they're very good. I had a Phillies versus Tigers World Series matchup that I predicted going into the playoffs, which was crazy. The Tigers did go on a little mini run, but it was crazy. The Padres, they're 12-1 at home. They've been so dominant at Petco Park. 4-6 on the road, so not as much on the road. So you look at San Diego as a team that maybe they'll start to trail off. I don't think so. I think it's definitely. I think the Padres are definitely a playoff team. Don't be surprised if the Dodgers very quickly overtake them for the NL West. Another team that's played very well so far this year in that same division is the San Francisco Giants. The Giants are 15-8, only one game back of both the Padres and Dodgers, who are tied for first. I don't think it's going to be a 2021-like Cinderella run where the Giants out of nowhere won 107 games. But the Giants are a solid team, and they're in the conversation for a National League playoff spot at the end of the year.
absolutely, it's really unfortunate that that division is so competent right
Yeah.
now because the Diamondbacks would be very competitive in
Yeah.
any other division. But I mean, really, you just have to feel really bad for the Colorado Rockies.
Oh,
I
boy.
mean, they have like the worst ballpark to be a pitcher in, and then they have a division that's just filled with power hitters and just good hitters in general. So I do not see any light at the end of the tunnel for that team, for the Rockies. But a team that's in last place that I do like right now, the the Athletics is what we'll go with for today. But the Athletics, they're actually a very good team fueled by a lot of young talent. They just called up one of their top prospects, and Jacob Wilson is off to an early Rookie of the Year campaign for them. So I think that the Athletics, especially if teams like Houston and the Angels don't really perform as well as they have to start the year, I think they could definitely be a wild card team or even take the division from Texas if they get the performance they need. Because Luis Severino has been a really good free agent addition for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the A's are a solid team, and you look at their splits as far as home and away. The A's are 8-5 on the road this year. They've been road warriors. They're 2-7 at home, which their home ballpark is, I would say a mockery of a major league ballpark. If I'm being completely honest, the entire situation of them moving out of Oakland was
Pathetic.
disgusting.
Yeah.
It made
just
me
so
sick.
many adjectives we could use.
If anyone's ever seen the movie Major League, it is the same thing. I mean, the plot of Major League, the owner of the Cleveland team passes away, and his daughter takes over control of the team. And the whole plot of the movie is that she intentionally makes the team horrible so that she can move them out of Cleveland and move them down to Miami where it's warmer. And there was some sort of clause in the contract where they weren't allowed to move unless they finished in last place in attendance. And what she did was she intentionally made the team horrible so she could say, nobody comes to our games, and then move them elsewhere out of a great baseball market. It's funny, years ago I watched that movie as a kid, and I sort of thought, this would never happen in real life. And then it happened in real life because John Fisher didn't think that the A's belonged in Oakland because he's money hungry and he's absolutely clueless, totally inept as a baseball owner, has zero idea what in the wide world he's doing. And he decided to move the A's to Las Vegas, which I was not a fan of pro sports teams in Vegas at the start. Like, for example, in 2017 when the Vegas Golden Knights first started in as an expansion team, and then went to the Stanley Cup Finals in their very first year. And when the Raiders moved from Oakland to Las Vegas, I really wasn't a fan. They've done well, I would say. I mean, the Golden Knights have, honestly, I'll say the Golden Knights have done well because they're winning, because they've been good since the second
they've been
they came
outstanding,
into the
right?
NHL.
Like for an expansion team.
They've only missed the playoffs one time
Yeah.
in the what year are we on? This is their 8th year of existence. They've
Yeah.
only missed the playoffs one time, and that's kind of the draw there. I will say T-Mobile Arena in Vegas is a palace. That place is incredible, and moving the A's there, I really don't see the draw. I don't mean to drag on Vegas, but Vegas is kind of, not sideshow attraction, but it's like if something is not current and great, it's really not going to work. Are the Vegas fans going to support 81 games a year of an A's team that could be good? Probably going to be somewhere in the middle, right? I don't know. And their situation right now until they go to Vegas is a mess.
Yeah, and there's way too much going on in Vegas for
Yep.
them to have time for baseball.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, they've already got a bunch of teams. They're probably going to have an NBA team who we're going to talk about a lot
Probably at some
later.
point.
But yeah, I think that, I don't know. I don't see why you'd move them because they're playing so well right now. Guys like Brent Rooker are just,
Yep.
I mean, last year at least, this year I think he's been off to a slower start, but they've been like just tearing up the baseball there. Like,
Yeah.
they've got such a good young core. I don't see why you would take that away from Oakland, which honestly has such a passionate fan base.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the A's had been there since the 60s, and they had done very well. The reason why the A's were not successful, the reason why the A's left Oakland was not because their fans didn't care. It was because the Oakland Coliseum was a dilapidated piece of garbage and badly needed to be replaced several years ago. But instead of, putting forth the money to build a new stadium, John Fisher did what millionaires like to do in these situations, which is cry poor and, throw a hissy fit and try and get the city to pay for it. And then when they don't, because they have bigger fish to fry, then you jump ship for a city who will enjoy the shiny new toy. But anyways, any final baseball-related thoughts before we move on?
Go Yankees. That's
There
all
you
I'm going
go.
to say. There we go.
There you go, and I'll say go Cardinals. Well, Jack,
Nope.
don't go too far because you're going to join me for the next segment as well. We're going to talk about the NBA. I'm Matt Volz, and you're watching Sports Hour on WNYF.
This one's for the real ballers and shot callers, the sisterhood of women in tech. They're discovering cures, building apps, and programming the blockchain. They're CEOs, worldwide hustlers who can make it rain. They're tearing down the old boys club and seeing big gains. Because when women in tech come together, you know they make that change.
Every day,
Millions of people are connecting
and even though we're overcoming obstacles,
watching each other's backs,
and banding together.
we should still make an effort.
We should still make an
to
effort.
get to know each other,
on a deeper level.
Father,
cosplayer,
Mentor.
actor.
it's time we take a step forward
It's time we take a step forward.
Come together.
and discover
How accepting our differences
can make us stronger.
How prepared is your family if a hurricane shows up at your doorstep, or a flood, or a blizzard? You can't just turn away a natural disaster. That's why it's important to go to ready.gov/plan now. It has the tools and tips you need to make an emergency plan with your family. So if disaster comes knocking,
Let's go.
you'll be ready to help keep your family safe.
It's just a pizza.
Make a plan today.
Welcome back to Sports Hour on WNYF. I'm Matt Volz. I'm joined again by Jack Coadley to talk about the NBA, and we are rolling in the first round of the playoffs this year. Some good series so far. A couple of games actually underway right now. Game 2 in Indiana between the Pacers and Bucks. Pacers up by 8 at the half. And Game 2 midway through the second quarter in Oklahoma City. The Thunder absolutely dominating the Grizzlies. They're up 44-25 in that game right now. Most series around Game 2 or making the shift to Game 3. Jack, your thoughts on the NBA playoffs so far?
I think it's been really, really great so far. I think it's been great for the NBA and just basketball as a whole. I mean, you just talked about it. Got a couple of games going on right now. The Pacers are up 8 on the Bucks at halftime, 68-60. Tyrese Halliburton was actually called the most overrated player in the NBA today by his peers, by the other NBA players. So I think he's out to make a statement on that. And then, as you mentioned, the Thunder are up 19 right now after beating the Grizzlies on Sunday by 51 points. An NBA playoff record on the same team that beat them by an NBA record 78 points in the regular season a couple years ago. So I think that there's some history there. Other series that are really good right now, the Nuggets and the Clippers, 2 really great games. Kawhi Leonard might have had the best playoff game I've seen from a player in like a while last night. 15 for 18 from the floor. I think he had 39 or 40 points. So shout out to him. I kind of hope that they beat the Nuggets and kind of upset them in round 1, but they finished the season so hot, I don't think it would be an upset. And then we have to talk about it, Matt. I'm sorry. Your New York Knicks have allowed the Pistons to end their Sabre-like playoff losing streak of 18 years without a postseason win last night as they defeated the Knicks to tie the series up at 1-1.
Is your goal of this segment to hurt me?
Maybe. I had to go in a little bit with like the other teams and so. I mean,
Yeah, thank you for the
we'll touch on the
Sabres
Mavs
shot.
later, of course. So
Yeah, well, that's true. Oh, well, you'll get yours in this segment, absolutely. But yeah, the Knicks falling to the Pistons last night, of course, New York winning Game 1. And then Game 2 last night, the Knicks had their chances. At the very end of the game, they were down by a lot. New York actually had to really come back to get that game to a point where it was close. They had a chance to tie the game late. Michael Bridges had an attempt from deep. Barely hit the front of the rim, as I told Jack before.
It's a rough shot.
We went in the air. It was a very rough shot. I actually, as he went up for that shot and got open, I stood up on my chair in my bedroom, and then he missed it, and I just pulled one of those.
haven't we all at some point?
I really did.
Yeah.
And so the series is tied, heading to Detroit again. The Pistons winning their first playoff game in many, many years. And it's funny that you mentioned the Sabres, as today is actually the 14-year anniversary of the Sabres' most recent playoff win.
Or game, right?
No, most recent playoff win. Most recent playoff game is
that
later this week.
Oh, is that 14 years ago still, though, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Sad, isn't it?
Yeah, not as sad as what we're about to talk about. So, Nico Harrison.
Yeah, it's your turn to experience some pain
he got
and
on the
frustration.
mic and he said some pretty. I'll be nice. I'll say questionable things about maybe the biggest trade in NBA history that he decided to just rattle out on the evening of February 1st. I remember it like it was yesterday. But my favorite quote from this was, I didn't recognize how important Luka Doncic was to the city or to the fans of the team. Just a complete disregard for like the public perception of this trade. He clearly had no idea what he was talking about. And I think that after this press conference, especially, as if he should have been fired on February 2nd, he needs to be fired. There needs to be a call made to Patrick Dumont, the current owner of the Mavs, by Mark Cuban, and he needs to say, listen, whatever you're doing to my team right now has to end, and it has to end with you firing this man, because he has just been absolutely so out of touch when he talks about this deal, has no idea how it affected the entire city of Dallas and me in New York. So, I don't know. I just think it's absolutely ridiculous that he would say stuff like that. He talked about the fire Nico chants, too, which I thought was pretty funny. I think they should keep him coming. I tried to start with the Guardians game last night, but it wasn't really well received.
I didn't really catch on up in Cleveland.
No.
But yeah, I mean, is there a general manager in the NBA more deserving of getting fired than Nico Harrison? I don't think so.
You don't know with the NBA because you could win a championship and then be fired within the next year.
True.
So, but I mean, yeah, I don't. there's not really many general managers in sports right now who I think deserve to be fired like Nico Harrison does. And that's not even saying that from a fan perspective. I actually had a lot of respect for him because he made a lot of moves that got us to that finals push. I believe he traded for Kyrie Irving, and he rattled off moves for Daniel Gafford, PJ Washington, key pieces on our team. Brought in Najee Marshall, who was really good for us this year, but I mean, he just took it all away. Like, it's such a head-scratching move. He said that their core right now could win a championship, and as a fan, I do believe it could, but it requires the most inconsistently healthy player in the history, probably the history of basketball outside of Derrick Rose, to stay healthy for an extended period of time, which I just don't think is going to happen. I'm just at a loss for words. Clearly not at a loss for words because I've been talking for a long time, but I could go on and on about this team and his decisions.
It's still a move that from an outsider perspective, it didn't make sense then. It doesn't make sense now, and I don't honestly think that it ever will make sense. And from the perspective, I might have a general manager who I think should also probably be fired, but that's enough about the Sabres until Jenna joins me later. But I think that from a strictly PR perspective, going in front of the cameras, in front of the media, in front of team reporters, and saying that you didn't know a player you traded was as valuable to the team as he was is, I mean, it's tone deaf. That's being nice to say that it's tone deaf.
Beyond.
I mean, it's so mind-boggling to think of a general manager being that unaware of a team's needs and a team's makeup. It just doesn't make sense.
I mean, literally, it's just all over the numbers too. Like the Mavs went 13-20 after making the trade, which is just outright ridiculous. And I do find it a little funny that exactly 77 days following the Luka Doncic trade to the Los Angeles Lakers, the Mavericks were eliminated from the play-in against the Grizzlies.
Interesting.
Let's move on.
Funny how that works.
Let's move on. I could talk about the Knicks, but I mean, you could just get me twice as hard back. So,
well, yeah.
Basketball is no longer a sport that I will be too passionate about going forward.
Well, and that's the thing. The Knicks are in the middle of their playoff series. They lost Game 2, obviously, which from a Knicks fan, tough. But you still have an entire rest of the series to play, and then things get interesting if they can get past Detroit, because then you're going to have to go through probably the Boston Celtics, and if you get past them, probably the Cleveland Cavaliers. Neither of those are an easy task at all with how good those top two seeds have been this year.
Absolutely, and a couple of other good playoff series to talk about. The swing in the odds for who was going to win that Lakers-Timberwolves series was absolutely dramatic after Game 1. The Timberwolves went in there and dominated, which I think not a lot of people expected to see after what Luka Doncic did to that team last year. But I think that the Timberwolves are going to be a team that's going to surprise a lot of people. I don't think they're going to win the series. I think that it's very dramatic to say that they're not favored right now, but it was J.J. Redick's first playoff series as a head coach. This is still a new team that doesn't have a lot of chemistry together. So I think that we'll wait and see, but I would still say Lakers in a comfortable 6, I'd say. And then the Rockets and the Warriors, I think the complete opposite. I think the lower seed, but I mean they're the 7th seed, is going to win that series maybe in 4 games. I don't think the Rockets are ready. I just don't think they are. I think they're way too young, kind of like OKC last year. So that's how I think that series is going to end up.
Yeah, you think about playoff experience. I mean, you got Steph Curry on the other side. So
there's no one else in the NBA who has.
Right. I mean, Curry has the experience. He has that clutch gene. He can lead a team to a championship, not single-handedly, but kind of what he did a few years ago.
But he's not single-handedly. He has one of the best playoff risers in NBA history, Jimmy Butler, on his team. I think this Warriors team is going to go to the conference finals minimum this year. They were the second best team in the Western Conference after the All-Star break, and that says something because it's a completely different team.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a team that they've got the experience. They've been there before with a few of the same players, and they can absolutely run it back. Well, thanks as always for joining me, Jack. Didn't mean to get you too heated about the Mavericks, but I think it's only fair because we as Sabres fans have to deal with it so much. We're just giving some of our pain and frustration to you.
Yeah, the show has been a therapy for me, so we'll take it. I mean, I'm sure I'm going to come here and talk.
Yes. It's very
Much
much
more.
a therapy
So-
for all of us who support losing teams. But thanks for joining me, of course,
Absolutely.
Jack. We'll be back in a few. Brock Papke is going to join me to talk about the WWE. I'm Matt Volz, and you're watching Sports Hour on WNYF.
When you think of the local lowdown, what do you think of?
Well, when I think of the local lowdown, it's the live music that we have played in the studio.
It's got to be the laughs we shared. The memorable moments during the whole thing. Oh my God, so fun.
The local lowdown for me is the people behind the scenes, the amazing team that we have making the show.
Oh, it's gotta be exploring all sorts of genres and music I've never heard before.
Oh, easy. Going out to shows and talking to artists and getting the latest news on what they have planned for the future.
It's about these artists, man. Giving them a platform to showcase what they've worked so hard on and show their music to the community. It's all about supporting the local scene of music to keep it running for years to come. And of course, the band merch. You can't forget about the merch.
We've been down there. You gotta do the same. Post office. All you do is sign. So don't get nervous. Sign your name. For selective service. It takes no time. Just sign on the line at the post office. For selective service.
Hey guys, if you're about to turn 18, you've got to register with Selective Service. It's simple. Just go down to the post office, fill out a card, and turn it in. That's all there is to it. There's no draft now. You're just adding your name to Selective Service's list in case there's a national emergency.
So if you're 18 now, selective service, you gotta get down to the post office.
Register with Selective Service. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the law.
Takes no time, just sign on the line at the post office. Selective service.
Welcome back to Sports Hour on WNYF. I'm Matt Volz. I'm now joined by Brock Papke. And Brock, we usually talk about NASCAR for this portion of the show. NASCAR was off this past weekend for their Easter weekend break. But we're going to talk about something a little bit different today. We're talking about the WWE. And I know there's been some big things happening with that lately.
Yeah, there's so much happened this past weekend. WrestleMania 41, the championship, as you will, happened in Las Vegas this past weekend. And, well, I'm going to tell you, and this is going to be not much of a shock, there has been so much surprises over the weekend that I am very surprised that it was Easter already. So let's start off with the big stage in Las Vegas. It's humongous. It's probably bigger than like a mega church in Buffalo. I know from experience, and it's very humongous, Matt. That it's bigger than like any rock stage that you can ever imagine. There's obviously there's explosions and all that. It's just, I'm trying to think of in football terms. It's bigger than like maybe 15 football yards right there. So it's just an entire thing on itself where WrestleMania on itself, it's a big event, it's the championship, and they went all out this year. And, well, let's go down to the highlights. Matt, how much knowledge do you know about the WWE?
Well, I will say that wrestling is certainly not one of the sports that I have the most knowledge on. It's interesting. We talk about like lacrosse. Obviously, I'm representing the Bandits. You know, hockey, football, baseball, basketball, NASCAR, those sort of stuff. Even golf to a certain extent. I know a little bit about golf.
Yes.
But wrestling, definitely not one that I watch as much. I will say I did hear all about when John Cena turned heel earlier this year up in Toronto. I had some friends who were there, and they filled me in on all of that, everything that happened. And I know I don't want to skip ahead to anything, of course, but I know that there was some big things going on with John Cena as well.
Yeah, and we also discussed this on Sports Hour as well, John Cena turning heel, and it was like a humongous storyline on itself where you know, John Cena, you can't see me. You had the father of Fred, if you will.
Yes.
He basically turned into a supervillain. And, well, that storyline, I admit, was very shocking at the time. It did run its course just a tad, but it was good nevertheless just for the lead up for WrestleMania. And, well, before we get into that, there's a few other highlights I want to mention. We're going to breeze by this one. Logan Paul, why the hell are you in WWE? Like, how much prime is in your brain to even do that? Probably steroids, but still. But it's just, I don't get it, but, like, he got knocked out by AJ Styles, which is probably the most memorable thing that he did that night. So
good.
Exactly.
Glad. Why is he there?
I don't know. Probably just promoting Prime.
Probably.
Whatever sugary crap that's going to his teeth. Anyways.
He's looking for another 75-year-old to fight, probably.
Exactly. And another footnote, Joe Hendry, who's an up-and-comer. He's running from the ranks. My man Randy Orton gave him such an RKO from nowhere. Like, I'm gonna replicate what even happened. It's literally the camera was right there, and he just did that, and then out of nowhere, Orton just basically RKO'd him. Like, that is just the most jump scariest of the entire event. But we're not there yet. CM Punk versus Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns, he's a cousin of The Rock, which is surprising because he didn't show up that night. Don't know why, but that's another thing on itself. CM Punk, love the guy, Midwest darling as himself. He also listens to Jeff Brown, so.
Hey, there you go.
Exactly, yeah. And, well, there's an entire storyline with him and his manager. It's sort of like, I put it in basketball terms so Matt can follow through.
Thank you for that, Ben.
Of course. He basically, his manager, it's slipping my mind, but it's fine. His manager is basically the Phil Jackson to the CM Punk MJ. And, well, I don't know what the storyline was. I think I missed it with the Martin Scorsese's and such. But it's more or less his manager either went with his friend or went with Roman Reigns. And he went with Roman Reigns for probably like the most shocking thing of the night. I wasn't too huge of a fan because it was just basically an entire storyline where a friend is just being portrayed. It's just like Phil Jackson just portraying MJ, though he did transfer teams after MJ left, but that's another story on itself. But that's just on itself. I've been talking your ear off, man. What do you think?
Well, so I want to take a minute to shout out my favorite wrestler, my mom. Let me explain, okay? So, there's reason to this. So, my mom has been a middle school guidance counselor for 27 years, right? This is her last year before she retires. Shout out, Mom.
Nice.
And one of her coworkers at the school she works at has created a Royal Rumble featuring all of the teachers and the faculty at the school. He has put the teachers and faculty into the WWE 2K video game and created a tournament between all of the teachers and faculty. And so far, my mom is undefeated. She is 2 for 2. She's gone up against teachers in both of her matchups so far. The last one, the most recent one, she was getting beat pretty bad early on and then came back. Her opponent was trying to go jump from the top rope and kind of come down with like the elbow finish. And my mom wouldn't fall for it. So she won. She's 2 for 2. Shout out to my mom. Fingers crossed she could win the Royal Rumble, which they call the Rebel Rumble. That's their mascot. But yeah, that's my favorite WWE wrestler is Kelly Volz. Yeah. I've left Brock speechless.
I don't know what you were cooking. I'm going to be completely honest with
Yeah?
you. Like, I didn't know if you're going to burn this oven or you're just going to sizzle with a
Oh,
steak.
no.
It's a mixture of both, but it's fine.
Oh, yeah. I'll find the video for you.
Yeah, I can't wait. But on to the main event. Speaking of another winner, John Cena, my man, the myth, the legend, Fred's father yet again.
That's right.
He won the entire thing, it being him against Cody Rhodes, and it was an intense gladiator fight on itself. Well, there was like some twists and turns. There was a few RKOs, a few stuff here and there. Travis Scott also making some appearance. Yeah, that's basically it. And he helped out with the entire thing. He must have went sicko mode and got some goosebumps from it. I'm never gonna say that ever again. But yeah, he helped John Cena win WrestleMania, which is not on my bingo card for 2025. But here we are, John Cena turning heel and the maker of Sicko Mode helping him win that thing. And The Rock didn't even happen. The indicator of this entire storyline, it didn't even show up for the. I don't know the rumors. I don't really care about it. It's just more or less, he didn't even show up. He probably was just. Who the heck knows? He probably was watching football on his TV.
Could be.
Probably watching
Watching the UFL, some spring football.
Probably some old NFL stuff as well.
Probably something like that. Well, this was a fun segment. Thanks, as always, for joining me, Brock. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, the final segment of our show, Jenna Polito is going to join me to talk about the NHL. I'm Matt Volz, and you're watching Sports Hour on WNYF.
Sit down, speak.
Did you know dragging chains can spark a wildfire?
Only you can prevent wildfires.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move. So I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
We've been down there. You gotta do the same. Post office, all you do is sign. So don't get nervous. Sign your name. For selective service, it takes no time. Just sign on the line at the post office. For selective service.
Hey guys, if you're about to turn 18, you gotta register with Selective Service. It's simple. Just go down to the post office, fill out a card, and turn it in. That's all there is to it. There's no draft now. You're just adding your name to Selective Service's list in case there's a national emergency.
So if you're 18 now, selective service, you gotta get down to the post office.
Register with Selective Service. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the law.
Takes no time, just sign on the line at the post office. Selective service.
Welcome back to Sports Hour on WNYF. I'm Matt Volz. I'm now joined by Jenna Polito to talk about the NHL for the final segment of our show. We are into the NHL playoffs as well. Of course, the Buffalo Sabres are not a part of them for the 14th year in a row, but the playoffs have been interesting to watch nevertheless. Your thoughts so far, Jenna?
And I was able to catch a little bit of both of the games on Saturday. That was the Dallas Stars, and I don't remember who they played. And then the Winnipeg game where Winnipeg won 5-3. They were very interesting to watch so far, and I mean, we're getting onto like the game 2 and game 3 of some series. We have 4 games tonight. Toronto is playing their second game against Ottawa. I believe they're up 1 in the series so far, which, as a Sabres fan, you don't really like to see.
I'm rooting for the Meteor in that series, Jenna. I'm rooting for the Meteor strike. I cannot, there's no way in good conscience that I could ever root for either Toronto or Ottawa in a playoff series.
Absolutely.
I won't do it. I will not watch that series.
No, I think, honestly, if I had to choose who I think has a good shot of winning the entire thing, especially the Eastern Conference, I'm going to go with the Carolina Hurricanes, just because, you know, if you kind of look back at how they are, their defense, their special teams and everything, they have set themselves up in a good position. I believe their odds are like plus 500 right now, which is pretty high based on all the teams. So I think that's good. I know our good friend of Fredonia, Charles Barkley, he believes that the Edmonton Oilers are going to win, but he also had the Leafs in the final.
That's true, which is always, you know, we know very well to always be a mistake. But I'm with you. I made my prediction on my radio show last week as far as the NHL playoffs, and I actually did pick Carolina to win the Stanley Cup. One of my good friends is a Carolina Hurricanes fan, so she'll be excited about that. I don't care for the Hurricanes personally, but I do think that they have a very good shot. I think they've had a very good team the last few years. They actually just wrapped up Game 2. They beat the New Jersey Devils 3-1 to jump ahead 2-0 in that first round series. And if they move on past New Jersey, they'll face either Washington or Montreal in round 2, probably the Capitals. I think as far as teams in the Western Conference, I think the Winnipeg Jets look really, really good. I'm rooting for the Blues. Obviously, my St. Louis Cardinals fandom speaks there. I always used to say that because the Sabres won't make the playoffs, I root for the Blues until the Blues get eliminated, and then I just watch sort of the rest of the way. But as far as the Western Conference, I think Winnipeg has been great. But the biggest things that I look out for in the playoffs are teams that have strong defense and teams that have strong goaltending. As far as defensively, I think that there are some very solid teams. I think Dallas is a really, really good team. I think the Stars could definitely make it. My first round upset that I picked, I actually had the Minnesota Wild beating the Vegas Golden Knights in the first round. That was the one that I looked at. I said, if a number 1 seed, if a division winner is going to go down in the first round, I think it's going to be Vegas losing to Minnesota.
I mean, I have to agree with that. And looking over at the Eastern Conference, the Panthers, I mean, they have been in the finals for the past 2 years.
Yep.
Can they continue this sort of streak that they're on? Another thing to think of, especially with the people who are predicting Edmonton to win it all, is kind of the same balance. You know, they've been in the playoffs. It's their turn. It's kind of like the natural order of things. One thing that is interesting, I agree that the Jets have been looking really good in the Western Conference. I mean, most points overall. But again, you have that President's Trophy curse, which, yes, it is just a superstition. But can we be so sure? I don't know.
Yeah, it's been since, I believe, 2013, the Blackhawks, I think, were the last teams to win the Stanley Cup in a President's Trophy year, and that was a lockout-shortened year. I think before that, it was Detroit in 2008, if I remember correctly. But as far as teams to look out for, as far as the finals are concerned, I hope we get a final series that's half as good as it was last year. I mean,
so good.
The Stanley Cup finals between Florida and Edmonton, genuinely, last year's finals might be the best Stanley Cup final series that I've ever watched. I thought it was an incredible series. Florida, of course, winning that in 7 games. My favorite finals that I've ever watched were when the Blues won the Stanley Cup in 2019, beating Boston in 7. But I would say it was phenomenal. If I'm making a pick for the Stanley Cup, I think out of the Western Conference, the Jets look really, really good. I would go with Dallas. I really think the Stars are an excellent team. They got a tough series against Colorado, but I would not be surprised if you see, I think it's going to be teams from down south. I would not be surprised if you saw a Dallas versus Carolina Stanley Cup final for sure. And there's some other teams. I think that Florida could also be in that mix as well. I think you could see Florida get back to the finals.
I could definitely see that. One thing I do think, sorry, I just lost my train of thought.
Yeah.
Thinking back onto last year's playoffs, it was a lot of hockey. We were kind of blessed with a lot, I believe, almost every series, depending on the round, or pretty much in every round, went to either 6 or 7 games. So I believe the final was, or the championship was sometime in July, late June or something.
It was very late June, yeah.
Yeah, I remember being home watching that, and I don't know.
Yeah, it was a phenomenal series. Like I said, it was one of the best, I think, in recent memory. And I think that's something that we're really starting to see in the NHL is there's been that parity. There's been very close series. I will always say the Stanley Cup playoffs are my favorite ones to tune into. The problem is my team hasn't been in them since I was in first grade.
Hey, but at least we have bobbleheads for
At
Fan
least we have
Appreciation
bobbleheads.
Night.
We have gravy boats. You know, it's fantastic. We don't have palm trees. Still working on that. But,
My boyfriend's mom actually got one of the bobbleheads. They're a lot larger than you would think.
Really?
The Alex Tuck ones, which I believe Alex Tuck sets some sort of NHL record for offensive players on his last game, but
I believe it was block shots by a forward.
block shots.
I think, which again, I mean, Tuck's toughness all year was certainly never in question. He was, one of the main reasons why that team was even competitive. And there's a lot of questions going into next season for the Sabres. I think it's safe to assume Kevin Adams is probably not getting fired. Some of the words that
I have
he
heard
used,
a little, yeah.
Yeah, some of the things he said in his press conference, though, made it seem like it wasn't necessarily a nailed down sure thing that his job is safe, though.
I don't know. I mean, I think if we look at the coaching staff, I think Lindy Ruff could definitely be safe. I mean, he just celebrated his 900th career win. He's one of only 2 coaches that are active in the NHL. I believe about 6 or 7 coaches in the history to reach that milestone with the 5-4 win over the Flyers. But yeah, it is definitely a little bit up in the air going into the next season. The draft, I believe we have about a 9% chance of winning the lottery. For the draft, it is June 27th. It's going to be in Las Vegas this year, so we are definitely looking for potentially some goaltending, maybe some defensive players, kind of help.
Yeah, I think the defensive depth is, if I have one primary issue with the Sabres, it's the defensive depth. I mean, you know how good Rasmus Dahlin is. Owen Power, there's some good and some bad with him. Really, outside of those 2 players, the Sabres defensively were not good at all this year. Bo Byram was fine when he was attached to Rasmus Dahlin at the hip. Whenever Byram was playing alongside anybody but number 26, he was one of the worst defensemen on the team.
It's a little disappointing because I really liked the Byram trade for Casey Middlestat. Of course, it was really sad to see Middlestat go, but I thought that we were getting a good target within Bo Byram, but this season just kind of disappointed all of us, all of the players. I mean, Rasmus Dahlin, he led the team in assists with 51 assists, which for a defenseman is pretty cool. A lot of people will say Rasmus Dahlin, he is a defensive player that looks like he is offensive.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, his puck moving skills are really something to behold. And one of the last Sabres games that I went to in the regular season, I watched. They played Ottawa late in the year, and I watched, and I remember just saying Rasmus Dahlin is such a treat to watch in person. It's similar, maybe not quite to the same level, but it's similar to going to a Bills game and getting to watch Josh Allen in person. I mean, Dahlin's puck skills are some of the best I've ever seen. I've been watching hockey my entire life. Rasmus Dahlin's puck skills are some of the best I have ever seen. You have full confidence every time the puck is on his stick that he's not going to turn it over. He's the only player that I feel that way about, and I'm sure a lot of fans probably feel the same way. The most disappointing aspect to all of this is the waste of a few of the Sabres' top-end players, because they do. Rasmus Dahlin is, I would say, easily a top 5 defenseman in the NHL, without question. Tage Thompson is an elite top-line forward. Alex Tuck, I would say, is a phenomenal top 6 forward, especially at the discounted rate that his contract is at. The Sabres aren't even paying him $5 million a year. The problem is Buffalo does not have the depth to supplement that. Now, we talked about their scoring at even strength was actually pretty solid. One of the better 5-on-5 offensive units in the league. The issue lies with their power play can't score, their penalty kill can't stop a runny nose, their defensive depth is never in the right place on the ice, and you had a down year from Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. So all of that kind of combined to create this mess that the Sabres are now in of missing the playoffs for the record 14th straight year, extending their record that they now have by a few years. And all I have to say is thank goodness for the New York Jets, because they are the only reason the Sabres don't have the longest playoff drought of any team in North America right now.
I wonder if after saying this next year, the Jets are going to make... I mean, actually, I take that back. I don't think there's any way statistically the Jets would be able to make it into the playoffs.
Oh, no. No, most certainly not. But
definitely not.
Which I guess there's some hope there, because realistically there is hope for the Sabres. Now, the coaching staff is a discussion. So when Lindy Ruff was brought in last year, he was not able to pick his own assistants. And I think that's been a discussion, that's been a frustration that a lot of fans have really had. You know, Seth Appert was the head coach in Rochester last year. He was brought up to run the special teams. Special teams were a disaster this year. One team to keep an eye on, and one thing that I saw a lot of fans talk about, the New York Rangers, after the disappointing season they had, the Rangers decided to fire head coach Peter Laviolette. Their assistant coach, Phil Housley, former Sabres coach, Sabres Hall of Fame defenseman as well, were let go. Former Sabres captain Michael Pekka, who was looked at as maybe being a coaching option in the past, Pekka was an assistant coach on that Rangers staff. Do the Rangers decide to move on from Pekka? If they do, would he want to come back and coach under his old coach, Lindy Ruff?
I mean...
Pekka does, I will say in the offseason, Pekka does live in Buffalo.
I think that would be pretty cool.
I think it would be certainly interesting to watch. You'd have the Sabres connection. Maybe his old coach, Lindy Ruff, could possibly bring him back. It's something interesting
Yeah, maybe
to watch,
just that connection could
Yep.
help to spark something within the players, too. I mean, they already have the motivation. They have the drive. That's not the problem. Well, it's a little bit of the problem, but it could help them a little bit, kind of with that cohesion to try and get where they want to go next season.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that will do it for our show here tonight. Jenna, thanks for joining me, of course, and I want to thank Jack and Brock for joining me in the earlier segments as well. We are winding down, of course, this semester, so be sure to tune in next week. I'm Matt Volz. You've been watching Sports Hour on WNYF. Have a good night.